Good morning, everybody. I'm still getting used to this StreamYard, considering that I always use another program, and I normally use Wirecast for my sessions, and I do that in a little bit of a different way. So anyway, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever in the world you are. You may be in different places. Fanny, hello, good morning. How are you
Good
doing?
morning. I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Are you in the East Coast?
I'm in Dallas,
In Dallas.
so
So you're
right in the middle.
right in the middle. So you're Central Time now, huh?
Yes,
All
yes.
righty. All righty. Well, thank you so much for joining this conversation. And everybody, welcome again to the You Can Do It Coffee series. One of the things that we've been doing over the past 5 weeks now is sharing some very specific advice for everybody, but more especially for those who are looking for jobs. So we started these conversations about 5 weeks ago, as I said before, with a with some with a session on building your personal and professional brand. Then we talked about landing your ideal job, how to network for introverts, how to build your perfect resume, how to take advantage of the power of strategic networking. And now we are going to be talking about video content. If you think about it, there's a common thread here, and it all has to do with putting yourself out there, building your brand and putting it out there, whether it is in the form of a resume, whether it is in the form of networking, whether it is in the form of videos, which is what we're going to be talking about today with Fanny. So if
Yes.
so, Fanny, thank you so much for joining us. If anybody has a question, please post it in the chat, and please let us know where you are connecting from. Would love to know where you are. And once again, if you have any question, please feel free to post it in the chat. Fanny, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you. It's a
Well,
gorgeous day in Dallas.
well, that's fantastic. I'm glad you're doing well, and it's fantastic to have you here with us today. So let's just begin by one question that probably comes up to you all the time.
Yeah.
People who say, Fanny, I am shy. I don't like putting my face out there. I don't like talking about things. I don't like putting myself on a video.
Yeah.
However, they know if they're asking you, it's because they know it's important. So
Yeah.
what's your advice for those who feel less comfortable, whether because they are introverted, whether because they are shy, or whatever reason they may have?
Right.
What's your advice for those who are a little scared of putting themselves out there in the form of a video?
Right. So I'll just do a quick intro. My name is Fanny Dunnigan. I help business owners and corporate professionals build their LinkedIn brand, especially through video. And I also help corporations with employer branding. And a lot of times, just like you asked, Enrique, like people are nervous to get on video, right? And I'm not necessarily a very extroverted person either, but I think the thing first is to come from a space of giving, right? So whether you're extroverted or introverted, ignore that and come from a place of how can I help somebody today? What can I share that will be in contribution to somebody? So I find that when you focus out and focus on helping and giving, then you tend to quiet all those inner voices in our heads, right? So for a job seeker, right, whatever their expertise is, if they're an IT professional or HR professional, whatever they are, I would just ask them to ask themselves, what is the biggest problems that my potential employers have right now? And what are maybe 3 pieces of advice that I could share with them based on my expertise, based on my knowledge that I've accumulated over the years? Scan over your resume and ask yourself, what is 3 pieces of advice I can give to help that employer today or help that person in the organization today? And so come from that space of giving and come from that space of contribution. And I think when we focus out, all our nervousness and all our anxieties quiet down. And then it's all about giving to somebody and sharing with somebody.
That is so powerful, and thank you so much for saying that. Last week, I was having the conversation. I was leading the coffee series, and I was talking about how networking is more often than not a process of giving rather than
Yes.
taking. And we always see the other way around. I don't know why. We always see it as a way for me to get a job or to gain some knowledge instead of offering what I can offer. So I love that you're saying that, because it is true for networking, but it is true for content creation as well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
this is the first great recommendation for those of you watching our session today. Creating video, networking, it's more than anything else. It is a process of giving and providing your value back to the community, and by finding ways on how to contribute to the community. So when somebody, let's say they break that barrier of, all right, Fanny, you convinced me, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put myself on a video, I'm gonna get out there, and let's see how it goes. What do you tell them should be the playbook to start the process once they understand that it's a process of giving, and that helps them control a little bit of the nervousness or the anxiety that may come from just the thinking of putting themselves out there? So what's the playbook they can start with?
Well, especially for your audience right now that are in job seeking position, one thing I would suggest is find your ideal job description, right? Find that job description out there that is everything that you're looking for and that is everything that you're suitable for. And from there, I want you to kind of like highlight key words or key topics in that job description that you're an expert in, right? There must be a reason why you're applying to that job, right? So it might be, let's say, an HR professional, right? And in the job description, it's talking about they need somebody that knows employee engagement. They need somebody that knows employee benefits. They want somebody that can develop teams, right? Let's say those three things, right? And from there, if those are things that you want to apply for and those are things that you're an expert in, I would then break down those topics and ask yourself, okay, what are 3 pieces of advice that I could talk about around employee engagement, right? Very high level. And I tell people to kind of use odd numbers like 3, 5, and 7, right? So ask yourself, what is maybe like 3 lessons learned from my experience on employee engagement, or 3 tips I have to improve employee engagement in the corporation, or 3 lessons that I learned during my 15 years in HR and employee engagement. And just jot those down, right? And so that forms content ideas, right? And so from there, do a video. You can practice just on your phone. I always say, like, our phones have super high resolution. Just put it on like a small tripod or a small stand, or lean it up against a book, and just hit record. It's not live. It's not like this, right? And just hit record and describe your 3 pieces of advice, right? And always remember to look in the camera and speak succinctly, right? Just 2-minute video, and just keep on doing that and keep on practicing, because this way you are creating content that is very specific to a job. And whether you land that job or not, because that's your expertise and that's something you're interested in, that content will be eternal to you, no matter what job you have, right? And then that way, after you apply for it, you could look up that recruitment manager or that hiring manager, and then message them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm very interested in that role, but I want to also share with you this post that I did around my 3 advice on employee engagement. And suddenly that interviewer or that recruitment manager sees you talking about a topic that's super relevant to the job, and they get to see you, right? That's the beauty of video. They get to see you, they get to see your energy, your communication skills, your soft skills. And those are things that can never come out. It's very hard to see someone's communication skills verbally and visually on a piece of resume, right? Yeah. So that way you have your resume that tells them what you do, but then you have your video to show people who you are. And combined with that, it makes you into this kind of like three-dimensional person and talent for that company.
No, I love that. And I love that because we have the opportunity right now to provide so much value to potential recruiters, whether, like you said before, whether we get that job or not. I mean, of course that matters.
Yes.
But ultimately what you're doing is building a relationship that can take you to places that you didn't even see from, before. I mean, maybe that recruiter says like, you know what, we already have one person for this role, but I know the company that is hiring something similar or whatnot. And, by providing that kind of added value to them, you become, you become relevant and valuable to that recruiter.
And who knows, whoever else is watching that video on LinkedIn, and it basically puts yourself out there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then I think when people see you, they feel like they kind of know you a little bit more, even if it's just for those 2 minutes. But we get so much from a video, right? Like a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000 words, right? There's so much that's unspoken in a video.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Fanny. One thing, I do a lot of videos and I always feel very comfortable with that. But more importantly, I think I feel very comfortable with the fact, for example, that I have an accent, so I'm not, English is my second language and I'm okay with that.
Yes.
I know that sometimes I'm just speaking and then I, backtrack a little bit because there's something that I want to say and I'm trying to find the word in my mind. All I'm saying here is that when you put content out there, there's going to be a level of imperfection because we don't have neither the equipment or the production of, high-end, video creators or whatnot. So what's your message for people who want to put something out there, but they are, held back by this idea of, if it is not perfect, I'm not going to put it out there.
Right.
Have you come across that?
Absolutely. And just a little background, like I was born in China and I immigrated to Canada when I was 6. And so when I got to Canada, I couldn't speak a word of English. And so I still remember taking English as a second language classes when I was like 6 years old, right? So that part in itself, like we're all learning. And if anything, people will feel more connected to you when you're authentic, when you're vulnerable, when you're imperfect. Imperfection actually causes connection and trust. And so we stumble, right? And so we say, or we hesitate. But I think that I would say 99% of the time, people feel a connection with imperfection. And again, going back to focusing out, the goal of video is not to be perfect. The goal of video content is to create value, right? So if we just focus on the value side, all the imperfections, like people love it. Like, I mean, as long as we're authentic and as long as we're giving, I think people will support you. Like, that's why we love underdogs, right? In sports, in stories on the news, we love somebody that like overcomes something to achieve something, right? That's the hero's journey, right? Yeah. Every movie, like Star Wars, I love Star Wars, right? Like, do you like Star Wars, Enrique?
Yeah, I do.
like Luke Skywalker, Rey, right? They come from humble beginnings and they're awkward and they're like, they're kind of fumbling and not sure of who they are and what to do. And along the way and along the movie, right? They learn from people, they get more and more confident, they overcome challenges, they succeed at something. And that's the hero's journey. And so if you look at the news, even like when we share business stories, like people love stories of overcoming obstacles and overcoming challenges. And that will create a much bigger connection with your audience than anything else.
I that is powerful. I wrote it in here. Imperfection causes connection and trust. And it's because it resonates with everybody, right? Because I mean, there's only a handful of people out there who are doing these things, with high-end equipment and whatnot. The overwhelming majority of us, we're doing it with the basic stuff, in a very basic way. And when you hear somebody putting stuff out there that is great, but imperfect, I don't know, but I feel that level of connection, like you said before, it resonates with me, but it also inspires me to say, like, I don't have to do it perfectly to do it well, to be amazing content, right? So I love that you're saying that. Of course, we deal with this idea of, we have influencers out there, and unfortunately, sometimes I feel that those influencers fail in telling their stories and telling people, I am here, but look at all I had to be grinding and hustling before getting here. I think Gary Vee is one of the few of them who is doing that. He's always telling people, like, you know what? I was listening to him the other day, and he was saying, every day I would go to bed at 4 a.m. because I would respond every tweet that was coming to my account. I would respond every single one of them. So you want to become the me that I'm today, but the me that I'm today is the result of the me that was, being built up over time. So how do you inspire people to understand that there's a process for everything? And for video content creation, there's also a process. It starts, imperfect, small, 1 minute, saying a couple of things, and then you grow from there. What's your message to people who want to start, that journey?
There's a quote. I follow this guy on YouTube called Sean Cannell. I don't know have you ever heard of him?
No.
Anyways, he's a big YouTuber, and he has all kinds of brilliant advice. And he has this sentence. He says, let your moments in obscurity prepare you for popularity. And I love that, because at the beginning, nobody's watching anyways, honestly. Right? Like we all start small, and we think everyone's watching and everyone's judging, but in a way, like, that's the time to start. That's the time when you get to have mistakes and fumble a little bit. And even for your job seekers, right, in your audience, I think one of the most powerful stories we can share is our origin story. And when we're applying for a job, let's say, and we're applying for a IT executive role or project manager or, marketing executive, whatever it is we're applying for, another video content idea for your audience is share your origin story, meaning share how you got into the industry and why you're still so passionate about what you do, right? And I think that will show people, like, your passion, your excitement for the industry, your interest in different trends in the industry, and all that. And that also shows people that you went through a journey, right? You went through a journey of struggle and learning and mistakes made. It shows that you're a constant learner. It'll show that you're not afraid to make mistakes, and you're not afraid to keep on growing. And I think when we create videos like that around our origin story, it's very powerful. And that's a great way also to get noticed by employers.
Yeah, because it's a story that nobody else has. It's your own story.
It's so unique.
It's so unique, it's authentic, it's genuine, and it's not faking it till you make it, because it is you. You're just like being you. So I love that. We've, like, even in this conversation, we come in a journey of being selfless when you think about content creation and video creation, meaning you think about it as a way to give and not to take. And you will take, but it will happen because you're giving. Then we move on to a place of knowing that the content that you're going to be putting out there is going to be imperfect, and that's okay, because imperfection causes connection and trust, like you said before. I'm quoting you. And people, the message will resonate way more with people that have had a similar journey than or as you if you put together, or put out a content that is genuine and authentic.
Right.
So going down to maybe 3, 4, 5 very specific tips and strategies for people who want to create video content,
Okay.
job seekers or not. And before getting there,
Yeah.
Fanny, I want to once again acknowledge the community that is watching our session today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Please let us know where you are connecting from in the world.
Yeah.
If you have any question, I know we have one in there and we're going to be going back to that one, but if you have any other question, please feel free to post them in the chat. And we are having a conversation with Fanny about tips and strategies for video content. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about right at this very second. Some 4 or 5 strategies for people to think about when they are going to start creating their videos.
Okay. And well, my first tip is something that I learned from a man named Craig Fisher. And I recommend you interview him as well, Enrique. He's a huge, he puts on these huge recruiting conferences in the Dallas and Austin area, and a great connection to have.
I know him, yeah.
Yeah. He talks about the 5-to-1 give to ask ratio. So for every 5 videos or 5 pieces of content where you're giving value, then the 6th one, you can say, hey, just to let you know, I'm looking for a job in this, this, and this. Would love your help if you're hiring or you know somebody that's hiring in that area. So that's totally okay to do, but just combine that with a lot of giving as well, right? So you got to give and then you ask. So that would be my tip number 1. My tip number 2 would be audio is important when you're doing video. You have your phone, which is already high resolution, but whenever you can, attach a little lapel mic to it. You can find them, they're like $20 on Amazon. And that way it just comes out a little more crisp. I think people are willing to see something a little fuzzy, but if they can't hear you and they don't know what you're saying, that can be, a hindrance to getting your message across. So number 2, audio is important. Number 3, lighting is important. You don't need fancy lights, but like I have a window right there in front of me. So a lot of nice natural light is always great. And number 4, another way, in addition to using job descriptions for content ideas, is write down the top 10 questions you always get asked at work. Like, what do people always come to you for advice on? What do people always want to know from you? Or what do people ask you to mentor them for? And list those 10 questions down. And then from there, put down your answers to them, right? Your typical answers to them. And that becomes 10 pieces of content or 10 pieces of video that you could create, right? It's like one of the top 10 questions that I always get asked is, what should I create content on? So my answer is, write down your top 10 questions that you get asked, right? So like really sit down and ask yourself, what do people always ask me? And then put down your answers to that and create videos around that. And I guess the 5th piece of advice is, I think there's who you want, there's what you want to say, and there's, the contents of what you say. But I think I always try to remind people is to come from your heart too. There's the mindset and the things to say and all the details and logistics of it. But right before you hit record, like take a pause and then like just look inward a little bit and ask yourself, okay, who am I going to help today? And just pause and think about that and picture that person, picture that hiring manager, picture that HR professional, picture that ideal boss, picture that ideal colleague. And then ask yourself, okay, what can I say to help them today? And then after you have that picture in your head, then pretend you're just talking to that person. And that way it comes off more authentic, more from the heart, and it's your way of being and how you'll show up on video.
I love that. And it's a way also to feel more chill, if you will, about creating a video, because you think about it as, I'm just having a conversation about something that I know about.
Yeah.
And I think people feel a lot of drive when they think about helping others. The majority of the people think that helping others is a good thing to do.
A lot of times we'd rather help someone else than help ourselves.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Right?
But it relaxes you, right? I mean, because you're like, all right, I'm going to be helping this person. So if you think about it as, I'm going to be helping this person and I'm going to be doing it on something that I know about, and I'm not just talking to everybody, I'm just talking to that one person that I'm helping. Yeah, it really helps you frame the thinking, the mindset, and it helps you chill, because then you are like, all right, I'm talking to my friend Fanny about this one thing or that other thing. And I think the common thread about all the things that you're saying has been always, over the past half an hour now, has been, giving. It's giving, giving back. And of course you're going to take, but it all begins with giving.
Yes.
Love that.
And focusing out, right? Like always ask yourself, who am I talking to? Who's my target audience? Who's my ideal employer? Who's my ideal client? And then create the video for that person.
Yeah. And I love that you're saying as well, create the list of the 10 questions that you get asked the most and begin from there. Because very often people see it, once again, it's just that we get the wrong image and the wrong perception when we see other stuff out there, and we're like, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna be like Fanny. Well, first of all, you don't have to be like Fanny, you have to be yourself. And Fanny has some knowledge, expertise in an area, and you may have it in another area. And Fanny, of course, is way far down the road, but people see that end product of what Fanny is today, and they don't see the journey. And that's important, because when you create that list of 10 questions, what happens is like, wow, this video that I thought it was going to be a 5-hour production became a 1.5 minute thing.
Yes.
And I just say, hey guys, I know some of you are struggling to get, PPP from the government in times of coronavirus. This is how you do it. You go here, you go there. That is a couple of minutes, and you created an insane amount of value for everybody.
Yes. And even like what we're doing, Enrique, like if you're nervous about doing a video by yourself, and nowadays everyone has Zoom, right? Get on Zoom with someone else and make it like a question and answer, right? And just record the session, and then just cut out that little one part that's like 1-2 minute long, and then post that part, right? And then that way it feels more natural, right? It's just like two friends having a conversation. Yeah,
absolutely. It is a simple process if you really want to make it happen. So fantastic about the 10 questions. Once again, if somebody else has a question in the chat, please feel free to put it up there. We got one question that I think you mentioned before, but I want to bring back. And it's about the length of videos, right? We see a bunch of stuff out there. What's your recommendation, especially for those who are just starting this journey?
Yeah, I think if you're just starting, 1 or 2 minutes, that's all it is. That really is. Like I said, just chop it down for a while. Even tying into those 10 questions idea, there was a hashtag that was going around, 10 tips, 10 days. It was put together by my friends Lila Smith, Jake Jordan, and a variety of other content creators. And that's a great way to do it too, right? Think of 10 tips and post it in 10 days. And that's a great way to just kind of like get yourself out there and just start. Say, hi, I'm Fanny Dunnigan. I'm here to share with you my 10 tips on video content creation over the next 10 days. My tip number 1 is, and then you go, right? So that's a quick 1-2 minute thing that you can do. Or hi, I'm Susan Johnson, and I'm a HR professional that is super passionate about employee engagement, and I want to share with you my 10 pieces of advice to improve employee engagement over the next 10 days. My tip number 1 is, and then you go. And so 1-2 minute long, that's all it takes. And then just keep the idea very succinct, right? Because we're all just scrolling. We're all just scrolling, and like, we're just waiting for something to kind of catch our attention. And our attention span's not very long anymore.
No, yeah, no. And I was actually looking through right now. I was trying to see if I found the number. I just couldn't find it. But I think it is something like only like 5% of all the people on LinkedIn create content,
Yes.
which is insane.
It is.
You know, it is a large number, but it's just 5%, you know, out of like 600 million people.
It is.
So imagine if you create great content and you're putting all this value out there.
Yeah.
You are definitely, making yourself, stand out from the crowd by creating content, especially if it's video or, any other way. But, you're going to be in that 5%.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me that we have this opportunity to create content and we don't utilize it.
And just to add to that, like for all the math people out there, right? So I've heard 3%, right? 3 to 5% create content. Okay. So that's the supply of content.
Yeah.
Right. But on the other hand, the demand for content, 46% of LinkedIn users come on daily to look for content, to read something, to learn something. So 46% of over 600 million and 3 to 5%. Do you see how like the demand is so much bigger than the supply of content? And so for those math people and technical people, like you can see like demand is bigger than supply. So you be on the supply side.
Yeah. No, I love it. And what a great opportunity to be able to do this. And like you said before, some people sometimes feel turned off by when they think, wait a second, the camera, $50, the lights, this amount of money, paying for LinkedIn Premium, $600, blah, 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 it's $1,000. You can, the phone, the camera in a phone is way better than the camera in a webcam.
Yes.
And even if you, like you're saying before, if you have a lapel, a good microphone, but if you're close to your phone, you can create great content that you can upload later. So you don't need a lot of resources to do this. It's just the intentionality to make it happen.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's all about the intention. And the intention is to share advice and create value. Absolutely.
No, that is fantastic. I want to ask you something funny. There are people who feel turned off from posting video content because they feel that they may say something, controversial and blah, 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 especially in times when it seems that when you say something like, we're
very sensitive now.
We're very sensitive, and we forgot how to disagree on things instead of like hating each other, right? So what, what's your recommendation for people who want to say something on a video that when something may be a little controversial, how can they frame that in a way that still puts the message out there while also being respectful of those who are going to be watching that message?
Yeah. For me, like I'm all about positivity, right? So all my messages are around like sharing, right? And so one thing, if you're hesitant about that, right? Like instead of saying don't do something, I always say here's my 5 things or 5 pieces of advice to do something. So like you can craft your messages in a form of do this instead of saying, don't do this because of this, don't do this because of this, don't do this because of this, right? Because then, our natural inclination is to get all defensive, right? And and then like defend and then want to like, argue about it, right? For me, I frame things of like, I'm passionate about, and then talk about that. And this is the things that I've learned that have worked for me, right? So you can frame it in terms of your own story. These 5 things have worked for me. And I just wanted to share it with you from my personal experience. And so that way, it's all about your journey. It's all about your lessons and things that have worked from you. And you can always say like, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. I would love to have an open dialogue about this. Right? And so it's all about respect and openness. And yesterday I was just interviewing a guest and we said, a lot of times, let's just agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that we
It is
disagree.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I still respect you.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about husbands and wives, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
live with each other. We will disagree about things, but at the end of the day, we still love each other. We still respect each other, and it's okay if we disagree.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to connect that idea with something that I always tell people when they start putting themselves out there
Please.
in the form of video content or whatever it is. I tell people the moment that you put yourself out there, you become a public persona. And when you become a public persona, you will get praise for what you're doing and disagreements as well.
Yes.
So you are going to have to be emotionally ready for people to disagree with you. Hopefully, and all disagreement that comes across is a respectful disagreement. And you're gonna have to be ready for that, because not everybody will like your content, and not everybody will agree with what you're saying. And I feel that very often that's what people expect. Like, I'm putting all this awesome content out there, that means that everybody has to agree with me, and that's not true. So I what's your advice for people? Actually, more than advice, how would you tell them, putting yourself out there is fantastic, but be ready for what ensues after you put yourself out there?
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from intent, right? So if I read a comment that disagrees with what I'm saying, if I feel like their intention is to open dialogue and to have a respectful debate, then I welcome it, right? I think that helps me learn, that helps me grow, that will help me open my mind. But if I sense that their intent, because even though it's not said, we always feel someone's intent, right? Like, we feel good intentions and we feel bad intentions. And if I feel like they're coming from bad intentions and they're just there to criticize, then I just say, thank you for your comment. And then I just move on, right? I'm not an argumentative person. I mean, some people are great at debates. I don't think I am. So I'm just like, okay, thank you. Next, right? Like, I'm not going to get into a debate. But one thing that I really take inspiration from is Brene Brown. And she has a quote about how she deals with critics, right? And she has that quote about the man in the arena. Have you ever heard of it? Right? Is it Roosevelt?
Teddy Roosevelt,
Yes, right? He says, the gist of it is, I don't know the exact words, is like, unless you're in there in the arena with me, and unless you're in there creating content yourself, and you're out there passionately speaking about something with good intentions, you don't get to sit back and just criticize and be a troll. Right?
Fanny, let me tell you. I just wanted to tell you, that was my mantra in 2019. And it was my mantra because I said to myself, well, I've been in this process of building Hacking HR, but also very, extroverted and putting videos and whatnot for a long time. But I said, last year I said to myself, I'm going to put myself out there even more than ever before. And of course, I know that people will disagree with some of the things that I say, and that's okay. What I do not tolerate intolerance, and there's a paradox in there. But when people come with hateful messages, that's something that I'm like, I mean, please get out of here. And
it's not even worth engaging.
No. And that's important for content creators in general, not only video, but any other way, for them to know that, when you put your message out there, that's your authentic self, your genuine ideas, your selfless person. Not everybody has to agree with you, but you don't have to force yourself to be agreeable to everybody.
No.
Right? You don't have to force yourself to be liked by everybody, because in doing so, you won't be liked by anybody if you try to be liked by everybody. And that's very, very important, because, if we learn how to be respectful of other people, even when we disagree with them, I think we're going to be able to learn much more from each other, right?
Absolutely. And when I coach my clients, I always say to them, like, in addition to video content and the words and the materials that you talk about, I always ask them, like, what is their values?
Yeah.
Right? Every company has company values. We also have our own personal values. Like, what do you value? So for me, I value positivity. I value empathy. I value compassion. And so those are things I stand for. And so if people are not in agreement with, and those are things, because they're at the foundation of me, it never wavers, it doesn't change, right? So I always ask people, like, what do you value? And if that's your core value, then don't let it waver, even if like the storm is coming. And like, I always think of like the salmon that swims upstream, right? And the current is just like churning towards you, right? Like if you are coming from great intention and great values, like, then you just got to stand there firmly, and just let it come through. And if it's in contribution to you, great. Listen to it, respect it. Yeah. And if it's not, then, you know, scroll on by.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I just posted the quote on LinkedIn. I just looked it up pretty quickly.
There it is. Yes.
At Theodore Roosevelt. And
please read it out loud, Enrique. I think it needs to be.
I can totally do that. That would be great. You know, it's not the critic who counts, not the man. And when he said man, by the way, he meant everybody. Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcomings. But who does actually strive to the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daringly greatly, so that his place shall never be with those who cold and timid souls who never knew victory nor defeat. Oh my goodness. Right? Powerful quote. Thanks for making me
love it.
Read it out loud.
I love it. Yes. Like I think we always need to read things out loud. I think like when things that we believe in, we have to say it out loud and we put it out there. And that's the energy that we can put out into the world. And I think that's the power of video content. Yeah. Right? Like truth knows truth. Yeah. Right? Like truth always connects. I've read that quote hundreds of times, right? But every time somebody says it, every time I read it, like it still gets me. And that's why like truth is eternal.
Yeah. And I love that you made me read that quote. And as you mentioned, it is closely related to video creation. Yeah. I mean, we can criticize people who are making videos, but it is only when we get into the video arena and we put ourselves out there, or even when we fail, when we don't do things right, we are in there. We are fighting. You know, we're doing the right thing. We're putting content. We're creating putting out ideas, creating opportunities for learning, collaboration, a public open debate about different things. Yes. This is such, what a powerful quote. So thank you for making me, bring it up. That was, as I said before, that was my mantra in 2019.
I love it. I love it. And you know what, Enrique? Like, sorry, I don't interrupt. Like, I really think like there's no coincidences in life. And I think that's what happens with content creation. I think when we put energy out there, we'll attract that kind of similar energy. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think this is the first time you and I have talked. Yeah. I already feel like we can be great friends. Yeah. I don't, right? Like, but I think, I've seen your content, you've probably seen mine. Like, so like even if we've just kind of glanced at each other's content, I think we always make little mental notes in our head about, you know what? I could talk to the guy further, or I could talk to her a little further because I like that one thing she said, or that one thing he said. And then it gets tucked into our brains. And that's similar when we create content. Like, you think nobody's watching, you think nobody's doing anything or liking or commenting, but people tuck little pieces of knowledge and content into their heads until finally there comes an opportunity that, hey, I want to do a collaboration with that person, or I want to do like a LinkedIn Live or an interview or have a chat or a virtual coffee or whatever. And that's how it starts. Like, content creation leads to engagement, leads to messages, and then leads to phone conversations, and then leads to face-to-face, and then relationships, right? And that's the cycle of the power of content creation.
I love that you say that, because when we are networking, creating content and whatnot, the chances of us networking with the very person that is going to get us to the job that we want to get is just very small. We're going to have to build upon that. But what's important here is that as you build those relationships, they will have some level of meaning for something. One of the people that you're networking with may not be the person that will give you the job, but they may connect you with somebody who knows the person who can give you the job, right? So it's that chain of effects that you're building. So, Fanny, as we wrap up this conversation, I just want to ask you one more question. And of course, once I can tell you how thankful I am that you, generously give us, are giving us your time.
My pleasure.
To be here. My last question to you is very simple. For those who are listening right now and those who are going to be watching the video later, if there was one thing that you would tell them, this is the one thing that you have to do right this very second, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now, to start thinking about video content creation, what that one thing would be?
Just do your first video.
There you go.
Just tell yourself, I'm not going to post it. Mentally tell yourself, I'm not going to post it, so that you don't have to psych yourself up, right? And literally just grab your phone and hit record and just say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm passionate about. And just talk and talk, right? And just practice, right? You're in the privacy of your own home. Sit in a closet if you want to. So, like just start. Tell yourself, I'm not going to post it, and just start. And you'd be surprised sometimes, like what comes out of your mouth. And I always tell people they can even use that to practice for interviews, right? Write down 3 things that you commonly get asked for interviews, and just record your reply. Right? What is your strengths, right? A lot of interviewers ask that. What's your strengths and your weaknesses? So just hit record and practice speaking to yourself. My strengths are whatever. These are my weaknesses, but I think that I overcame them, blah, 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 right? Like, and that way you're just practicing. There's no pressure. It's you, yourself, and, the molecules in the air, right? And just start.
Well, that's powerful. It's just get in the arena. Just put your first
in the arena.
Foot in, and then I think, in my view, I don't know about you, I think it's so magnetic, if you will, that once you put your first foot in the arena and you're like, whoa, this is not as difficult and bad as I thought. Yeah, it's not perfect, but you feel like this force pulling you in. And you feel more
alive, right?
I would say so, yeah.
Like all your emotions are like up here, right?
Yeah,
and it's
okay. I think it's okay. And I think it's pretty, to be honest, in my view, it is really cool when you put something out there and you start seeing people comment, even if it's 2 people. The fact that 2 people are commenting on it and saying something, I think that really inspires me to say, like, you know what, now I'm going to put the other foot in the arena and, continue the journey. Absolutely. So, Fanny, thank you so much for being with us today. Everybody, please get in touch with Fanny if you need more advice, more coaching. This is the work that she does, helping people to develop their content, whether it is in video or in many other ways. So please get in touch with Fanny. Fanny, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on your show, Enrique. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody.